Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Tanjuatco-Trillo. Today on the program, the vaccination of children aged 5 to 11 begins today in 6 pilot areas in Metro Manila. With the continuing decline in COVID-19 cases, should authorities begin the transition to a new normal? And how will the 2022 elections affect the government's COVID-19 response and vaccination efforts? Presidential Advisor for COVID-19 Response, Dizon, joins us live. The pilot vaccination rollout for children aged 5 to 11 will finally push through today. Hospitals, schools, malls, and gymnasiums will serve as vaccination sites across Metro Manila this week. So far, 160,000 children have registered for vaccination, but authorities expect the number to reach 500,000. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Presidential Advisor for COVID-19 Response, Dizon, joins us now live. Sir Vince, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ria. Good morning.
All right, sir, the pediatric vaccination starts today for those belonging to the 5 to 11 age group. Can you tell us a little bit about the preparations that had to be made for this?
Yes, Ria, thank you very much for that. Right now, I am at the Philippine Heart Center for one of the first rollout of our vaccination for our children ages 5 to 11. And I must say, I'm very, very happy and very excited to be here with our kids. Being a parent myself, it's really very, it's breathing a sigh of relief, Ria, watching our kids finally getting the vaccinations that they need. Right now, here at the Philippine Arts Center, there are roughly about 670 kids that have signed up. And jabbing already started around 8 a.m. and will continue throughout the day. And I must say right now, I'm here looking at them and they're so happy. Their parents especially are so happy. And I was at the monitoring station just a few minutes ago. And it was very nice because they even had a nice cartoon video that was playing for the kids while they had to wait for the 15 minutes to check if there are any adverse effects. And so far, no adverse effects at all. And I see very happy faces here. So there was a bit of a delay in this. This should have started last Friday, but as we know, the doses were delayed by 1 day, and we decided to move everything today. So there will be several sites today, the Philippine Arts Center, the National Children's Center, the Philippine Children's Medical Center, and three non-hospitals in San Juan in the Philippine Oil Arena, at the Manila Zoo in Manila, and also in SM City.
So altogether, how many LGUs exactly are participating?
For the launch today, there are 5 LGUs participating, but all the LGUs in NCR as well as in Region 3 and Region 4 will be starting in the next couple of days. A total of, I think, 38 LGUs for the first week of the children's vaccination. So right. It's a very widespread rollout, but we're aiming to really escalate this immediately after the first week.
All right. And how many kids are we expecting to be vaccinated exactly within this age group?
Initially, there are about 500,000 that have already, I think, signed up. But we're expecting anywhere between, I think, 1.5 million, something in that range, to be vaccinated all over the country.
Okay, so that still is a pretty significant chunk of the population. Are there any challenges that you are foreseeing during the rollout for the 5 to 11-year-olds?
Well, yes, it's a little bit more challenging than our vaccination for adults, simply because it's the first time we're doing it for this age group. Although we have had considerable experience already for the 12 to 17 age group. And that yielded very, very good results. Very, very few, in fact, no serious adverse effects from that age group since we started vaccinating last year, and already almost, I think, already 3 million have been vaccinated already. So the only challenge for the younger age group is, of course, the preparations we have to make for possible adverse effects. And also the logistics of it, because the doses for Pfizer are different from the doses that we use for the older age groups from 12 up. So these are different doses that we have to get from Pfizer, but Pfizer has committed to provide up to 30 million doses for us in the coming months.
All right, so that definitely should cover the 5 to 11-year-olds. I want to talk now a little bit about parental consent. We had some Metro Manila mayors, I believe it was Mayor Joy Belmonte, Rex Gatchalian, and Lenlen Oreta, and also Toby Tiangco, who said that parental consent is required for vaccination. Is it or isn't it? Because some of the messaging has been a bit confusing around that.
Yes, to clarify that, it is an absolute requirement. No child can be vaccinated without parental consent. So I will repeat, it is an absolute requirement for vaccination for children.
All right, so can children decide for themselves if they want to get vaccinated? What happens if the child wants to get vaccinated, but the parents don't want them to?
Unfortunately, they cannot. And it is the parents' call if the child will be vaccinated or not. So again, the parental consent is an absolute requirement for vaccination of children.
All right, so that is very, very clear. No vaccination without parental consent. Now, I just want to go back to something that you said earlier about expanding the vaccination of kids to other regions and areas. What timelines and schedules are we looking at for that?
Everything will be dependent on supply, but in the initial delivery of about 760,000 doses, we have already spread this out through all over the country. So we are expecting more to arrive in the coming weeks, I think before the end of February. So we will expand as we get the doses, we will expand immediately.
All right. And as you said, Pfizer already committed about 30 million doses, so that should not be a problem. We wanted to get your reaction, Sir Vince, on the petition filed last week before the Quezon City Regional Trial Court, asking the DOH to stop the vaccination of the 11 or the 5 to 11 year olds. Is the government ready to respond? Is this a major concern for you at all?
We are definitely ready to respond. We respect and believe in the process. However, we are pursuing this very, very aggressively, simply because our children really need to be protected. And, you know, the sad news is that, you know, especially during the past surges, a lot of kids got infected with COVID-19. And some of them got severe infection. And plus add to that, the fact that without vaccinations, it's very difficult for our children and especially their parents to allow their kids to go out. It affects not only face-to-face classes, but it also affects, you know, the life of the family. You know, it's very hard for parents to leave their kids at home when they go out. So this is very, very important for the government. And we are ready and we will be answering the petition that was filed in the Quezon City Regional Trial Court. But we are very, very confident that the courts will allow the vaccinations to continue, simply because, you know, we need it. We need it, and we need the vaccines to protect our kids. And if I may just add, Ria, just last Friday, the Philippine Pediatric Society and the Philippine Society for Pediatric Infectious Diseases already issued a very, very clear statement that they fully support the vaccination of our children aged 5 to 11, and they have reviewed together with other experts, such as those in the vaccine expert panel, the Department of Science and Technology, the vaccine that is allowed for children, the Pfizer vaccine, and they fully support and they adhere to the fact that these vaccines are safe and will protect our children from serious COVID-19 infection.
Right. Well, in spite of that, of course, the petitioners still filed their case, and they were represented by the Public Attorney's Office, or PAO, and its chief, Persida Acosta, who herself remains unvaccinated, said that the parents want to protect their children from undue experimentation. So first of all, is PAO contradicting government vaccination efforts here? And with Acosta herself leading this legal battle, could this possibly turn into another Dengvaxia type of controversy in the making that could lead to the loss of confidence in vaccines again?
First of all, I think the absolute requirement for parental consent already addresses that first argument of the petitioners. It's very clear that children may only get vaccinated if they have the consent of the parents. So it is the responsibility of the parents to give that consent, and if they give that consent, that's the only time that they will get vaccinated. Now, as for does it compromise the vaccination efforts? Of course, this is it's a free country, as they say, and we allow the due process of law to take its course. The PAO has every right to represent these individuals who question the vaccination for children, but let us probably just allow the process to take its course. But in the meantime, we will push through with the vaccination of children, because our children need them desperately, and I think the majority of our parents believe and are in fact very, very happy. Based on the parents that I've talked to here, they were so excited and they were so relieved that finally their kids are going to get the vaccine.
All right, before we take a break, Secretary Dizon, do you have a message to parents who still have apprehensions about getting their younger children vaccinated? And if ever, what will happen in case we do see adverse effects following the inoculation? Who would answer for this?
Of course, all the adverse effects, possible adverse effects from any vaccination will be shouldered by the government. This is clear in the vaccine law that was passed by Congress last year. And to the parents, I think our only message to them is, number one, the vaccines, especially those that have been approved already, have gone through rigorous testing, rigorous trials, and have already been used in other countries. Millions of kids aged 5 to 11 have already been vaccinated in the US, in Europe, in other developed countries. And I think we're very fortunate in the Philippines to be the first Southeast Asian country to receive the vaccine that was used in other even more developed countries. So I think they should be confident in that. And also they should be confident in the fact that the Philippine Pediatric Society, which is composed of pediatricians all over the country, have already endorsed and have fully supported the vaccination for kids. But of course, if they still have some anxiety and some questions, we would really advise them to talk to their pediatricians, ask for their advice, and base their decisions on what their pediatrician will advise and also what the doctors will advise.
All right, thank you for that, sir. We will be taking a short break. Coming up, some groups call on authorities to prepare a pandemic exit plan for the Philippines. Secretary Vince Dizon will share his thoughts when we return. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Presidential Advisor for COVID-19 Response, Vince Dizon. Secretary Vince, welcome back to the program. Could you update us, sir, on how many Filipinos are now fully vaccinated, and are we inching closer to our target of 70 million fully vaccinated Pinoys?
Yes, we are now at 60 million, Ria. 60 million fully vaccinated Filipinos. And our goal is to hit 70 million in March. We think we can do this, especially with the upcoming National Vaccination Days coming up in this Feb 10 and 11. But our ultimate goal really is to vaccinate 90 million Filipinos by the time the president's term ends on June 30.
All right. Regarding booster shots naman po, how many Filipinos have received their boosters?
Yeah, more than 8 million have already received their boosters. This is something we have to push more aggressively, given that some of our countrymen and women have already been vaccinated. They've received their first dose more than 6 months ago. So we need to wrap this up very quickly. Especially, we know that COVID-19 is very unpredictable, and we don't know when this, if and when the next variant will come. So we have to protect our people from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we know in different parts of the country, the vaccination rates do vary greatly. What are your areas of concern? What are the areas with a low vaccination rate? And how do you plan to ramp up vaccination in those areas?
The good thing is more than half of our regions are already 70% and above fully vaccinated. Now, that's a tremendous achievement, given the fact that we had huge supply problems up until the fourth quarter of last year. It was really only in October where our supply got to a level where we were confident that we would not be having issues if we rolled out completely. But there are still some regions, as you correctly pointed out, particularly the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is still below 50% vaccinated. So we are focusing on those areas. However, these areas, especially the rural areas, are quite challenging because the demographics are quite different. The density is quite different. So it's more difficult to reach many people in these areas. But we are doing our best to really get the vaccines closer to the people as much as possible. Actually, this is the reason why last month we started the vaccinations in pharmacies, in order to expand the reach of the vaccines and also make it more accessible to people so they don't have to go to mega vaccination sites of our LGUs to get the job.
Right, really have to make it easy for citizens. Now, on to something else, Secretary. Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion, he suggested that alert levels start to be used more like typhoon warning signals. Do you agree with this?
This is what we are actually doing. This is why we transitioned to the alert level system from the acronym system that we used early on. This is patterned after the typhoon signal system 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I think we've already done that. However, for the calls to scrap the alert level system, I think those are still premature. I think what our focus now should still be to bring down our cases and really get out of this Omicron surge that started in early January. So right now, our cases have significantly gone down. They're down to below 10,000 already last week. And hopefully this will further decrease this week and in the coming week. So I think before we start talking about removing the alert level, we have to focus on bringing down the cases to a level similar to what we had prior to Omicron, which was below 1,000 cases per day for the entire country.
That being the case, Secretary, do you think there is a possibility of going down to alert level 1 after Feb 15? Because as you said, cases have steadily been going down, but the positivity rate is still at over 20%.
Yes, exactly. So I think we will have to review the numbers. The good thing about the alert level system that we have now is that the metrics for decision making, whether to move to alert level 3, to 2, to 1, etc., are based on very clear numbers, very clear thresholds. So, and these are the 2-week growth rate, the attack rate, and the positivity rate. So we are looking at those numbers, and we will see. Sorry, not the positivity rate, but the occupancy, critical care occupancy rate. So we will look at those numbers and we will review them every week and we will make decisions based on that. So I'm not at liberty to say right now if there will be any movement after Feb 15.
All right. There's also been a suggestion, Secretary, that booster cards should become a requirement to order establishments. With, as you said, just about 8 million Filipinos who are boosted. Do you support this?
I don't think now is the right time to do that, because as you said, 8 million booster shots have been given. So that's a very low number. No, and what we have to do, and I encourage the private sector, Secretary Concepcion, to help us in this, is to push further our people getting the booster shot. No, especially in the private sector, if they can push their employees, the workers to get the booster shot, that would allow us to further increase these numbers in the coming weeks. But right now, I don't think that is possible to do at this point.
All right, sir. We will
to
be
require booster shots for, to enter malls or
Right.
restaurants. I think that was the proposal. I think that it's very premature to do that right.
That's right. Numbers for that are still too low. Sir, we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Presidential Advisor for COVID-19 Response, Vince Dizon. Secretary, welcome back. Now, I want to talk about tourists being welcomed back into the country. Fully vaccinated tourists will be allowed to enter starting February 10th. How ready are we for this?
Last year, Ria, Secretary Berna really pushed so hard to vaccinate our tourism workers, because tourism, amongst all other industries, has really been the hardest hit. And unfortunately, millions of our kababayans rely on tourism for livelihood. The first step was to get tourist workers vaccinated. Now, I think given the trend of where the cases are going throughout the world, given the mildness of the dominant variant, the Omicron variant, and given the fact that a lot of people throughout the world are already fully vaccinated, and many, in fact, are even boosted, I think it is time, and I agree completely with the decision of the IATF and, of course, of Secretary Berna, to finally open up the country to tourism, but only for fully vaccinated tourists. I think the vaccination has proven to be a game changer in protecting our people. And since in fact, I think already 100% of our tourism workers, or close to 100% of our tourist workers, are already fully vaccinated as well, I think it's about time for us to open up so that livelihoods can return and our tourism sector can grow again.
All right, as we know, Secretary, elections are nearing. That involves a lot of movement. It involves a lot of manpower. Will vaccination efforts be hampered during the election period?
Well, I hope not. No, I hope not. But we are preparing for a potential, slowdown in vaccination efforts, given that most of these are done at the LGU level. Part of our efforts are really to decentralize our vaccination efforts, authorizing pharmacies, clinics, and even using other private sector facilities such as maybe gas stations later on, or toll plazas in the toll booths, as recommended by some mayors and some government officials. This is something that we have to do in order to bring the vaccines closer, and also to unburden our local government units, especially in light of the upcoming elections. But what we are also doing is we are also promoting the vaccination program for our LGUs. That even with the campaigns coming up, the national campaign starting tomorrow, the local campaign starting in March, we hope that our local government units will still continue vaccinating, especially providing for the booster doses for our kababayans, even during the election period.
All right, Secretary, how would it be handled if, for example, there would be another surge during the election period? As you said earlier, there are going to be other variants. We don't know what their characteristics will be like. But if ever there is a surge, how are we going to handle it during the election period?
Well, I think we will handle it the same way that we handle past surges, which I think we have learned a lot and we have handled them pretty well, especially this latest surge, as you have all seen, while the numbers hit record highs, our hospitalizations almost never breached above 70-75%. There were very, very few casualties during the last surge. This is primarily due to the vaccine, but also partly due to the quick action taken by the national government and our local government units to do granular lockdowns, to prevent people from moving around unnecessarily. The vaccine restrictions that were imposed in NCR and other alert level 3 areas helped a lot in controlling the surge. So we will be doing the same thing. I think we know now what works. And if this happens, hopefully not, God forbid, it doesn't happen. But if it happens during the election period, I think we are ready to respond.
All right, as you mentioned, sir, the 2022 campaign for national candidates kicks off tomorrow. How will we ensure compliance in campaign rules and health protocols once the candidates are out there and, trying to meet as many people as they can?
Yes, the COMELEC and the DILG have come up with the restrictions, with the guidelines for campaigning. And the DILG and the COMELEC, I think we have all trust and confidence in them to enforce these guidelines.
All right, so are rallies allowed during this period, Secretary?
Yes, they are, especially in areas that are already at alert level 2. But of course, they will have to be contained. If the capacity is X, then depending on the alert level, the number of people in the rally have to be controlled based on the guidelines of COMELEC, and depending on the alert level where the area is in.
All right, here's hoping everybody adheres to those guidelines. Thank you so much, Presidential Advisor for COVID-19 Response, Vince Dizon. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Tanjuatco-Trillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.